The following program may contain coarse language, sexual content, violence, and mature themes, so if you're under 18, back away from the television. Not for you, buddy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Chapter 15, Invasion Part 1, Naruto vs. Gaara. A genjutsu began to fall over the arena. Sakura ran around and woke up as many ninja in the arena as she could. Naruto and Sasuke released themselves from the genjutsu as well. A bunch of sound ANS and ninja jumped into the arena and charged at them. Sasuke whipped out his katana and swung, decapitating one. He didn't feel right killing, but he knew now wasn't the time to be self-conscious. Naruto took out Angel's hand and cut down a few ninja himself. Sakura had to fight a few. She most knocked them out with a few well-placed punches. A few ninja charged at Shikamaru, who Sakura had just woken up. He went through hand signs and yelled, "Shadow tendrils!" The shadows around him shot toward the enemy ninja. The tendrils wrapped around their throats and slowly choked them to death. Shikamaru felt bile coming up in his throat but managed to hold it down. As the fighting was going on, Temari grabbed Gaara and started to make a dash for it. Naruto noticed the two getting away. "Sasuke!" Naruto yelled, "Gaara and his sister are getting away. I'm going after them. You stay here and take down as many of them as you can." Sasuke growled that he wouldn't be able to fight Gaara, but he knew that he probably would have won if the invasion hadn't gotten in the way, so he let it slide. Naruto took off in the direction of the two sand ninja. Kakashi and Guy soon joined the fray and started knocking people around left and right. Meanwhile, the cage booth exploded in a blast of smoke. The Kaze cage threw off his robes to reveal that it was Orochimaru in disguise. He jumped back and glared at his old teacher. "Time to die, Sarutobi," the snake said with a vicious grin. An Umbu jumped out of the side to try and attack the snake Sunin, but he was intercepted by one of Orochimaru's guards. Three others popped up and they all threw off their robes. One was a fat man with red hair, another was man with another guy sticking out of his back, another was a man that had 6 arms, and the third was a girl with red hair. "These are the Sound Four," Orochimaru explained. "They are my elite guards and they will be Tohi ones to help me kill you, old man." The two cage-level fighters jumped to the roof of the building so they could get more room to fight. The Sound Ninja 4 went to the corners of the building, but they were intercepted by 4 cloaked figures. They were then knocked back with incredible strength. "Who are they?" Orochimaru asked. The old man in front of him smirked as the threw of his cage robe and hat revealing his battle armor. "Some old friends of mine," was what the old man answered. The figures then threw off their cloaks. Orochimaru, if he could have, paled, and so did his elite guards. The Umbu around the building all looked shocked at what they saw. In front of the Sound Ninja 4 stood the first, second, and fourth Hokages, along with a strong-looking red head. "Oh," Orochimaru started, "crud, the Sound Ninja 4 finished for him." Minato grinned like a fool and yelled to the heavens, "We're back." Meanwhile, in another part of the village, a Sound Ninja screamed as his arm was ripped off. Zabuza jumped back as a few shuriken hit the ground next to him. He swung his golden cleaver and took off the head of the ninja who threw them at him. Zabuza sensed another presence and turned around to see Haku sending a lot of throwing needles at a bunch of Sound Ninja, each one hitting in a vital spot. Zabuza smirked as he saw his daughter take down a bunch of ninja like a professional assassin. In another part of the village, multi-size jutsu, Chauza Akamika grew to a massive size and using his staff crushed a few ninja like insects. Nearby, his friend Inoichi Yamanaka was going through hand signs, mind destruction jutsu. The Sand Ninja he was fighting suddenly stopped attacking him and went after his own comrades. Meanwhile, Shikaku Nara was going through hand signs, Shadow Strangle Jutsu. The shadows he used to capture his enemies went up and wrapped around his throat, slowly choking him to death. This is a sight to see, Shikaku said. Yeah, Inoichi said, the original Ino Shikacho trio back together. All over the village the clans were doing their best to keep their home safe. The civilians mostly spent their shumhidden. I mean, really, these people need to learn how to throw a punch or something. Most of the civilians and children in the academy were hidden in a secret base in the Hokage Monument. Meanwhile, with Naruto was still giving chase to the brother and sister. Eventually the two stopped to take a breather. They had thought they had lost whoever that was following them. Gaara, Temari asked as they stopped, "Are you okay?" "Mother," Gaara growled, "Mother wants to come out." "Temari, get out of here." "What?" she asked. "Temari," Gaara groaned, clutching his head, "Sister, Mother has killed many people, I don't want you to be next." Temari was thrown for a loop when he heard Gaara call her his sister. He never called her that. She felt tears burn in her eyes as she turned and ran. Her little brother really did care for her. Truth be told, Gaara had a temporary moment of sanity as Shikaku tried to take over. It was rare for him, and he decided to show Temari that he wasn't all that much of a monster. After Temari got away, Naruto showed up. He saw Gaara hunched over and clutching his head. "Dude, what's wrong with you?" Naruto asked. He decided to get closer. It turned out to be a smee's take as he was suddenly bashed away by an incredibly strong arm swing by Gaara. Naruto hit the branch behind him. He groaned as he got up and saw that the sand in Gaara's gourd was slipping out and covering him. "Uzumaki," Gaara snarled, "the sanity from a few minutes ago, Mother could have the blood of the Uchiha, so she will have your blood instead." The sand around Gaara wrapped around most of his face and his right arm. The result was a mutated, deformed arm forming. It had a bit of blue in certain spots. The sand then formed a massive raccoon-like tail just below above his backside. "I was right," Naruto said, "you do have that overgrown raccoon." "So you know of my demon," Gaara growled, "it won't save you. I will kill you and claim your blood for Mother." Gaara sent a plume of sand at Naruto, who managed to dodge the attack. Naruto focused his chakra and sent out a blast of wind chakra at Gaara. The sand was blown away, leaving Gaara wide open. Naruto rushed in and shot out a kick that knocked Gaara into the air. Naruto jumped up and yelled, "Wolf Barrage!" Gaara was hit with a series of punches and kick and was sent crashing through the tree branch he was standing on a few seconds earlier. Gaara rose up as Naruto landed across from him. The blonde cracked his knuckles and smirked at the sand boy. "Gaara," Naruto said, "we don't have to do this, but if you insist on fighting, then I will tear you down." "You are strong, Uzumaki," Gaara growled as he rose up and more sand covered him, covering a bit more of him to his left shoulder. "I have finally found the fight that will push me to my limit." "Ninja art, sand shuriken." Gaara sent out some shuriken made out of sand at Naruto. Naruto went through hand signs himself and yelled out, "Water style, water jet stream." Naruto shot out a jet blast of water from his mouth, soaking the sand shuriken and making them fall to the ground in clumps. The water then struck Gaara, who yelled as he was sent flying back and hit another tree. Naruto took advantage of this and went through more hand signs. Lightning style, thunder burst. Naruto's hands erupted into electricity and sent out a volt of electricity that shocked Gaara, making him scream in pain again. Gaara got up shakily and growled at the boy who had dared hurt him. He growled and more sand flowed out of his gourd. Now he was almost completely covered in the sand except for his shins. He also started to take a resemblance to the Shikaku. Naruto growled, This just kept getting better and better. Gaara rushed at Naruto, yelled, "Wind bullet!" Gaara slammed an arm on his chest, sending out a blast of wind at Naruto. Naruto didn't have time to react and was blown back into a tree. Naruto groaned in pain. He got up, then he jumped out of the way to avoid a clawed hand going for his face. Gaara's mutated arm crushed the tree that was behind him. Naruto spun around and pumped chakra into his hands. He charged forward and unleashed a powerful combo on Gaara. The Sanjin Huriki stumbled back with each punch. "Come on, big man!" Naruto yelled, "Show me what you got! Show me what you got!" Gaara grabbed Naruto's fist in a deformed fist and glared at him. "Well, okay then," Naruto said, looking a little nervous. Gaara drew back his other arm and sent Naruto flying. He was sent through 2 trees. Despite his pain, Naruto got up and winced a bit. "Man," he said, thinking out loud, "I hope that everyone else is having an easier time than I am." Meanwhile, back at the village, Sarutobi jumped to the side to avoid a sword entering his head. The fit with him and Orochimaru was pretty much even. The Snake Sunin had brought out the sword Kizangi and was hacking at the old fire shadow. At the same time, Sarutobi had summoned the Monkey King Inma. The monkey boss then took the form of his weapon, the adamant staff. The two were currently clashing weapons. Though the Monkey King was currently made of a very hard substance, the sword still hurt him, so Sarutobi was trying to keep him from killing him. Meanwhile, the former Kages and Kushina were just biding their time until they had to intervene. Hashirama was fighting Jirobo, the fat guy, Taburma was fighting Sukan and Yakan, the 2 Siamese twin guys, Minato was goofing around with Kidomaru, the spider-like guy, and Kushina was taking on Teiwaya, the only girl on the team. All while they were fighting, Teiwaya was cursing Kushina out. At least she was, until Kidomaru got sick of listening to he ran, shot a blob of webbing out of his mouth and hit her in the mouth, effectively shutting her up. Kushina took out a katana and was keeping the sound female from using her flute. Teiwaya already had a short fuse and it was getting shorter and shorter by the second. Hashirama was just holding back while he fought Jirobo. Jirobo may have been strong, but he wasn't as strong as him. The first Hokage always blocked his attacks and always held back when he unleashed a punch on the overweight man. Jirobo was getting annoyed and was wondering if he should turn on his curse mark. Taburma was biding his time as well. Using an unparalleled control over water, he managed to keep the Siamese twins at bay. Each time they threw an attack, the second Hokage pulled some water from the air and used it to deflect his attack. The two brothers were both getting angry with the man and their short fuses were really coming close to an end. Minato was basically just goofing around with Kidomaru. The Spider-Man sent out blast after blast of webbing from his mouth to try and hit the man, but before the tournament he set up a bunch of Hirishin seals all over the village so he could teleport around. It was proving to be effective at both avoiding the webs and for pissing off the man. Kidomaru even threw a few things of solidified webbing so that he could kill the supposed to be dead Kage. He kept missing and it only infuriated him further. Back in the arena, Sasuke had been joined by Haku and Zabuza to help take down the sound and sand ninja in the arena. Zabuza kept cutting them down and Haku kept hitting them with throwing needles. She was approached by a bunch of ninja when she realized she was almost out. Before she could voice it to Zabuza, she was tackled and sent to the ground to the sound ninja. "Pretty girl," the sound ninja said, "maybe after the invasion I'll be able to keep you as my pet." Haku glared at the man and brought her leg up into his crotch. The man howled in pain and swung her hand, raking her nails across his face. The man clutched his face in pain and fell back. Haku then formed some ice needles from the water in the air and drove them into his temple. The man was killed instantly. Sasuke currently had his Onyx Sharingan out and was lighting the ninja ablaze with the Amaretsu. He even put some of the others in the Tsunkai no Mi and cut them down with his sword. Sasuke was then charged at by a large ninja with a very heavy club. He brought the thing down and Sasuke blocked it with his katana. It took most of the blow, but Sasuke was blown back by the force of the blow. The man rose his club again to try and squash the Uchiha. He knew it was against Orochimaru's orders to hurt Boy, but his kid took out a close friend of his and he was going to make him pay. Haku saw her boyfriend defenseless as the ninja rose his heavy weapon. She jumped in the way as the club was about to be brought down. Time seemed to slow for Sasuke. If he had known something, felt his shock and saw what he saw. "Do you want to save her?" a voice said in his head. What, the Uchiha asked mentally. "Do you want to save her? Do you want the power to destroy your enemies? If this power is corrupt, then I don't want it." Sasuke mentally seethed, "I want power to protect her and power to do that alone." "Ha ha ha." The voice laughed, "You have a strong will, boy, and a noble heart. Me and my kind shall serve you." Sasuke then felt a strange power run through him. Back with Haku, the large man was swinging down his club on the girl. Haku closed her eyes so she wouldn't see it coming. There was a loud crack and she felt no pain. Haku opened one eye and then both shot open. Sasuke stood in front of her with the club of the ninja clutched in his grip. His Onyx Sharingan blazing. Slowly the white tomos merged together to form a spider web-like pattern. Sasuke then radiated a blackish chakra. As it flowed down to his arm, it affected the sword he was holding. The blade turned silver and the image of a black bird appeared on the bottom of the blade. The handle turned black with a red crystal on the hilt, and on the bottom of the handle was the Uchiha symbol. "What," he growled, "do you think you're doing to my girlfriend?" He swung the now darkened blade and split the man in half. Sasuke yelled in anger and charged forward into the onslaught of oncoming enemies. All the while on thought went through Haku's and Zabuza's minds. Zabuza had witnessed it after he tore off the head of another sand ninja. What the hell was that? Back with Naruto. Naruto avoided another air bullet shot at him from the sand Jinchuriki. The two had exchanged a jutsu here and there and Naruto was starting to get tired. He knew he had to unseal some of his power. That was when he felt some dark chakra coming from somewhere. He then remembered what he did to Sasuke's Sharingan. So that's what the Mangekyo version does, he thought. As he was thinking, he got hit by Gaara in the chest and was sent into a tree, again. "Okay, that is it?" Naruto yelled as he put his hands together, "Chakra seal release 1." Naruto felt a rush of power run through him. Naruto growled as he kicked, sending out a chakra blade. Gaara brought up his arms and covered himself. The chakra blades hit him hard and cut off the sand arm he had. Unfortunately, it grew back a few seconds later. Naruto made a few clones and they charged and attacked the sand monster. It was then that Naruto noticed something. Whenever Gaara attacked, he seemed to protect the spot right below the tail. Naruto grimaced. He swore that after he once used it on an enemy, more precisely his mother, that he would never do it again. Right. Now he didn't have a choice. And what his mom didn't know wouldn't hurt him. Naruto unsealed Shadow Claw and ran at the sand ninja. Gaara swung his mutated arm and Naruto jumped over it and landed at him and called out his move, Uzumaki style, screaming darkness, 1000 years of pain. Gaara didn't have the time to comprehend what was going to happen next. Naruto shoved the sword back, sticking it in the spot below the tail. Temari, who was watching nearby, sweat dropped as she saw it. She was shocked when the black sword started to glow. Then Naruto moved the sword. Swinging it up, the result was loud screaming and a dark blast shooting upward, carrying Gaara with it. The Sanjin Huriki screamed out in pain as he was sent flying upward. Gaara thought, he hit me, where the armor is at its weakest. How did he know? Back on the ground, Naruto was focusing chakra into his hand. He jumped up the rays, non-forming, flying at his enemy. Naruto pulled back the move and yelled, "Taste this, you overgrown sandbox!" Raise non. The chakra sphere made contact with Gaara's buttocks, making the Sanjin Huriki scream out in pain. There was sudden explosion and Gaara was sent flying into another part of the forest. Naruto went back to earth and groaned slightly from the exertion he had just put himself through. Glad that's over, he thought. He really shouldn't have thought that. In the part of the forest where Gaara landed, he growled. He growled, will not let my existence be extinguished by him. Back with Naruto, the ground started to shake. Naruto spun around just in time to see a huge thing of sand shoot out of the ground. The sand merged together to form a massive raccoon-like creature. Naruto growled as he knew he was far from being done. He bit his thumb and went through hand signs yelling, "Lion summoning, Mufasa." There was a huge plume of smoke and a black lion with a gold mane appeared. "Naruto," the lion said, "to what do I owe the pleasure of you summoning me?" "I need your help to fight that guy, big man," Naruto said, pointing at the abomination that was once Gaara. The large lion glared at the demonic sand raccoon thing. A low growl escaped the giant cat's lips and it bared its teeth in a vicious snarl. "Naruto," the lion boss said, "you were right to summon me to fight this creature. He is much too powerful like this to fight unless you want to." "Mufasa," Naruto groaned, "you know what will happen if I unseal too much of my power at one time." "I know, boy, I'm just yanking your chain," the lion said, rolling its eyes. "Let's teach this freak a lesson." The large beast charged at the raccoon and sank its teeth into its arm. The monster pulled away and the lion spat out sand. The monster's head then opened slightly on the top and Gaara rose up. "Hey big guy," Naruto yelled, "what's he doing?" "Naruto," the lion said, determination in its voice, "we have to make sure that boy stays awake. If my suspicions are right, if he falls asleep we'll have to deal with the demon and we don't want to have to deal with that. We have to act now before ninja art, force sleep jutsu. Dang it!" the lion yelled. The beast's eyes, which had earlier been foggy, now became clearer and you could tell that the Shikaku was back. "Yes, I'm out," the monster yelled, "and I'll celebrate by killing you. Wind style, air bullet." The monster shot out a large blast of wind from its mouth. The lion jumped away from it and landed a few feet away. "You call that a technique?" the lion boss asked. "This is a wind technique. Wind style, fierce roar." The lion let out a massive roar that made the ground shake. Tamari, who was a little bit away, covered her ears as the sound of the roar hit her ears like an atom bomb. The blast of wind that shot from the lion's mouth knocked the Shikaku off its feet. The beast fell to the ground and Naruto and Mufasa had a moment to think. "How do we beat this guy?" Naruto asked. "If he's made of sand he'll just keep rebuilding himself." "We need to wake up that kid," the lion explained. "If we can wake him up the Shikaku should go back into the seal." "How are we going to do that?" Naruto asked. "We need to get in close." As the lion said this, the monster had finished reforming itself. "I need to get a good grip on him, then you can punch the little punk until he's up." "Got it," Naruto nodded. "Good. Now you're going to want to cover your ears. Wind style, ultimate roar." Mufasa took a very deep breath and Naruto covered his ears like he was told. The lion let out another roar, this one shaking the ground even more. Temari grabbed her ears as she didn't want to end up being deaf. The shikaku was blown back a bit more as the roar hit it. The beast was knocked back to the ground. Naruto and Mufasa saw their chance and the two charged at it. As the shikaku rose up, Mufasa sank his claws and teeth into the shikaku's hide. Naruto ran and jumped off the lion's head and ran across the monsters to Gaara. "Hey!" Naruto yelled, "wake up!" Naruto rushed forward and slammed his fist into Gaara's head. Gaara was sent reeling with the bow. Naruto knew that he wasn't awake because the demon was still out. Naruto unleashed a few more punches until some sand came up and wrapped around his arms and legs, keeping him from attacking. Naruto growled and brought his hands together and said, "Chakra seal release 2." Naruto felt another rush of energy come through him as more of his chakra was released. He growled and using his newly released chakra tore himself from the sand and ran toward the red head. "Rise and shine!" Naruto yelled as he brought a powerful punch to the side of Gaara's face. The force of the blow knocked Gaara awake. "Oh, come on!" Shikaku whined, "I just got here. It's not fair." His eyes turned glassy and the sand he was made of crumbled and Naruto and Gaara fell to the ground below. Naruto landed on his feet while Gaara crashed down on his back. Naruto was really tired right now. Naruto slowly stood up and approached the downed Gaara. Gaara began to panic. "No!" he yelled, "stay away from me. I won't let you take away my existence. It's all I have." "I don't want to take your existence," Naruto said, "and it's not all you have." Gaara stopped and listened to Naruto. As he did, Temari showed up. "Gaara," Naruto said, "I once carried the same burden you do. I was hated, hurt, and I lived alone. Eventually I found a family, but you have had one all your life. Don't push them away, Gaara. Someday you'll need them more than you think." At that moment Kankuro showed up. He was a little tired after his chakra drain. He had managed to regain some strength after eating a soldier pill. He had gotten out of the village and saw the fight with Gaara and Naruto. Said Blonde turned to look at the two. "Get out of here," Naruto said, "and if you come back with ill intent I will hurt you." The two siblings nodded and grabbed Gaara. They then shot off into the forest. Naruto grinned, looking proud with himself, then he realized something. Oh no! The old man is still fighting the snake. He turned to Mufasa, who had yet to go back to the summon world. "Do you have enough strength to get us back?" The lion nodded. Naruto jumped up on the beast's head and swallowed a soldier pill to bring back his strength. The lion shot off at an incredible speed. Naruto hoping he would make it in time. Meanwhile, with the fleeing sand siblings, Gaara spoke up. "Temari, Kankuro," he said, "I'm sorry." The two were taken aback. Kankuro grinned and Temari had a few tears of joy coming into her eyes. "It's okay little bro," Temari said with Kankuro agreeing, "let's just get you home." Gaara nodded and let a very rare real smile cross his lips. Chapter 16, Invasion Part 2, Rise of the Basilisk. Sarutobi blocked another slash from the Kizangi with his adamant staff. He was knocked back a little bit but managed to hold. He was currently at his fifth standoff like this with his former student and it was getting rather tiresome doing this. The other competitors were starting to get really bored with this as well. "I told you, old man," the snake Sunin, "I told you that I would kill you and I finally will kill you. Then would you mind telling me why I'm still breathing?" the old fire shadow asked with a smirk on his face. The snake growled in anger at the old man. He started to push harder against the old man's staff. He was getting tired of this little game. Kidomaru was getting sick of playing for once. He was getting tired of this blonde messing with him every step of the way. He was tired of this because he had much better things to do than mess with this guy. Plus he knew that the longer he drew this fight out, the less chance he had of beating this guy. He felt a twinge of excitement run through him. It had been a long time since he last had to come this far in a fight. Jirobo was running out of steam against Hashirama. The overweight man jumped back to avoid a large piece of wood that would have crushed him like a bug if he hadn't moved out of the way. He was really starting to get annoyed with this guy. He knew that he had to do that, though it excited him a bit. It had been a while since he had to use that. Sukon and Yukon were not having an easy time. Even with both brothers awake, they were having a little trouble fighting off the second of the thought-dead fire shadows. They knew that it was finally time to stop holding back. It was finally time to show them what they could really do. Teiwei was still unable to talk due to the webbing that covered her mouth. She was still on edge due to her not being able to counter Kushina's strikes with her flute. She was having a lot of trouble now since she had never been that good at close combat. At the moment she was cursing herself for not studying close combat when she had the chance. She knew what it was she had to do. "Okay guys," Jirobo said, "let's show these dead punks what we're made of." The others all nodded. Their opponents stopped for a brief second to see what it was that they were talking about. Slowly black marks spread all over their bodies. Minato's eyes widened as he saw the marks spread. "Watch out guys!" he yelled, "they got curse marks." "Yeah honey," Kushina yelled back, "we noticed." Jirobo smirked at Hashirama when the marks started to glow and spread over his body. When the glow faded, it revealed a being that looked more like an ogre than a human. His skin had gained an orange-like color and his body had all kinds of swollen parts on it. The newly formed ogre grinned at the first Hokage. "Let's see what you got, old man," Jirobo said, cracking his knuckles loudly. "Indeed we shall," Hashirama said in a calm voice. Teiwei felt he webbing over her mouth break as the power flooded her body. Her skin became darker and 3 large horns grew out of her head. Her eyes turned yellow and the whites of her eyes had turned completely black. "Okay," the newly transformed woman said, "let's see what you got you." Before she could even finish her sentence, she was slapped in the mouth with a thing of duct tape. "Watch you language, young lady," Kushina sighed with a smirk, "I'm in no mood to hear such language. From what I've heard, I'm going to have to wash your mouth out with soap." Teiwei growled at the woman and started cursing behind the duct tape. Kushina was really glad that the younger readers couldn't hear what this woman was saying. Sukon and Yukon both felt their power grow. The toe moved to where their heads were side by side. The head both took demonic shapes, each one turning red with large teeth. Another change was the large horn that grew out of one side of their heads. If they were separate, it would look like one brother was standing next to a mirror. "Now," Sukon started. "It's time to die," Yukon finished. Tobirama just narrowed his eyes at the joined twins. He got into a fighting stance and got ready for the two to start things. Kidomaru laughed maniacally as his skin grew darker. 2 small horns grew out of his forehead and his teeth grew to points. Another new feature was a third eye that grew in the center of his forehead. He continued laughing like a maniac and glared at Minato. "All right," he said menacingly, "let's see if the so-called yellow flashes as fast as they say." "You," Minato said, getting in a stance, "are so going down." Round 1, Hashirama vs Jirobo. The newly transformed ogre charged at the first Hokage, swing his fist like crazy. Hashirama jumped out of the way and noticed how each punch formed craters in the tiles. He glared at the monster as it looked at him angrily. Hold still so I can crush you. Jirobo yelled as he charged at the man. Hashirama jumped up and over Jirobo to avoid a strong punch to the face. The first Hokage then spun on his heel and nailed the ogre in the face. Jirobo was sent flying back and hit a small building. The man-thing got up groggily as he clutched his stomach where he had been hit. He glared up at Hashirama, who looked like he was focusing. Then he remembered what the man was famous for. Jirobo scampered up and moved just in time for the wood that was underneath the tile to spike and nearly turn him into a giant oversized pincushion. He jumped to the side to avoid a few more wooden spikes that would have killed him. Hashirama watched this and had to admit that he was very fast for a rather large man. Jirobo jumped up suddenly and charged at the wood user. The two met and the two started a grappling contest. Jirobo pushed as hard as he could, but he couldn't manage to push the man back. How? Jirobo groaned as he was getting tired of pushing back on the man. How could you be this strong after being dead for so long? Simple, Hashirama said, I trained while I was in heaven. You have much free time there. Hashirama then brought his knee up in Jirobo's gut and knocked him back. He smirked at the man. In fact, Hashirama said, I managed to do a few things with my wood style. He then went through hand signs and yelled, wood style, forest crusher. The ground beneath them shook and large roots burst from the ground. Jirobo, who was still in pain, looked up in shock. One of the roots came down and smashed the man in the chest, causing him to go flying into another building. Some more roots came out and picked the crushed man up. The pain from the attack was so intense that it caused Jirobo to change back to his human self. Here's something else I learned, Hashirama said as he went through hand signs again. When he finished, a large pair of white angel wings sprouted from his back. Jirobo stared as a large ball of light formed into the first Hokage's hands. The man then called out his attack. Light style, piercing light. The first Hokage then drew back his arm, taking the energy ball with it. Then he shot a large beam of light. Jirobo screamed as the blast hit him head on. After a few seconds of blasting, there was nothing left of the Goliath. Don't underestimate a cage, Hashirama said, crossing his arms. Round 2, Tobirama vs Sukon and Yukon. The new formed Siamese monsters jumped to avoid a killer punch to the chest that nearly ripped open their chest. Man, it's hard to do this when there are two people in one body. Anyway, they dodged another punch and jumped behind the second Hokage. Multi-punch. The two yelled at the same time. Tobirama jumped away just in time to avoid multiple punches to the back of his head. He did a few backflips to get away from the terrible twins. Tobirama kept a serious face as the two growled in frustration. Stay still, Yukon growled, so we can kill you. Sukon finished. I don't think so, Tobirama sighed as he pulled water from the air and sent a few water kunao at the two. The two jumped up to avoid the kunao. They forgot that they were made of water and not metal, though. The water kunao, through Tobirama's wool, suddenly changed direction. Each one then pierced the twin demons' back and the two heads howled in absolute pain. While the two were distracted, Tobirama went through hand signs and called out, water style, binding whirlpool. A sudden whirlpool appeared and wrapped around the two-headed monster. The two struggled, but they couldn't get out of the water's amazingly tight grip. Tobirama smirked and went through hand signs again. The brothers saw this and doubled their efforts to escape. However, Tobirama finished his jutsu and called out, water style, severing current. Another burst of water came from the air and came down and ran down between the two brothers' heads. They screamed in pain as they were suddenly ripped in half. Tobirama grinned at his victory. It was then that the two heads began to laugh. Then out of the two halves the rest of a body came out. The only difference was that they were both black and metal-like. Like it, Sakon asked as he got up. We can't be killed by separating us, Yukon explained, you just cut your chances of beating us in half. Then maybe he needs some help, Hashirama said as he came out of nowhere and slammed a fist into Sakon's face. Brother! Yukon yelled. He would have run to help his brother, but a blast of water from Toibarama stopped him and knocked him off the roof of the building they were currently on. Hashirama was going nuts on his new punching bag. Each punch made the man reel. Finally the first Hokage got tired of beating on the man. He then sent a strong punch to Sakon's face and then sent him flying with a mighty kick to the side of the head. After that he went through hand signs. This, Hashirama said as wings sprouted on his back and wood underneath his feet started to shine a little, is something that I've always wanted to try. Lightwood style, Wrath of Eden. The wood beneath him burst out and formed a massive tree. Sakon got up from his sudden and unexpected flight and saw the massive glowing tree. His jaw dropped as he saw the sheer size of the thing. His shock turned to fear as a few of the branches came down and wrapped themselves around the man and picked him up. Suddenly the tree glowed brighter and then the bark began to crack. Hashirama then took the time to get the heck away from the thing. At that moment in a column of bright light the tree exploded in a shine of brilliance. You couldn't hear Sakon's screams over the sound of the explosion. Whoa, said a civilian who was peeking out of a window from the safe place he was hiding, it looks like the first and second cages have gotten stronger in death. It seems that way, said his wife who was hiding with him. All the Umbu around them stared at the display of beautiful and destructive power. Heck, even Orochimaru and Sarutobi stopped to watch. All the others stopped to watch. Except for Tobirama, Kushina, and Minato. That was both cool and terrifying at the same time, the Snake Sunin said with a rare look of awe on his face. You get used to it after a while, I guess, Sarutobi said. It was then that he remembered what was happening. He then brought down his staff on Orochimaru's head and then sent him flying like a baseball bat into a wall. Meanwhile, Naruto rode on Mufasa's back and saw the large pillar of light. He knew what was happening. Come on Mufasa, Naruto said, we got to get there yesterday. I'm running as fast as I can, boy. Mufasa yelled as they kept on running. Back with the other fighters. Yukon was knocked out of his daze by Tobirama knocking him senseless with a powerful shot to the head. The last of the twins rose up and growled at the man who punched him in the face. Since that punk killed my brother, he growled as he spat out some blood, I'll kill his brother. Yukon charged. In his anger it was clear that he was not thinking this through. Since his approach was now very sloppy, he was easily countered with a simple punch to the face from the second Hokage. The white-haired man then walked toward the now lone brother. Yukon growled again and tried to grab him. Toibarama jumped out of the way and punched him again. Yukon didn't move when he hit the ground. Tobirama was still on guard as he approached the downed warrior. He was right to be as the man suddenly leapt up and grabbed him. Got you, no? Yukon yelled in a crazed voice. He then started to merge his body with the former cages. What are you doing? The man grunted as he felt his body burn. I'm merging myself with you, the crazed man explained. My body's cells are slowly mixing with yours and making you a part of my body. Soon there won't be anything left. I don't think so, said a voice. Hashirama formed multiple spikes of wood and sent them into Yukon's back. The man screamed in pain. Tobirama took advantage of the temporary distraction and grabbed the man. He then proceeded to rip him off his back and slam him into the ground. Then he kicked him, knocking him away. A pool of blood appeared where Yukon's hand had been ripped out. Taburma grunted in pain, but decided to end this now. He went through hand signs as wings appeared on his back. Yukon saw this and knew what would happen. He then charged forward and to try and stop him. Hashirama responded by blocking the crazed man with his own body. Yukon's hand mixed with Hashirama's body and the first Hokage grunted in pain. Hashirama formed a wooden spear in his hand and shoved it into the man's shoulder. Yukon screamed in pain again. He was then shoved off and Hashirama brought out some roots and wrapped them around Yukon. At that moment Tobirama finished his hand signs. Shining water started to form rings around him as he called out, "Light water style, flood of holy water." The shining water shined a bit brighter and formed a stream and slammed into Yukon. Yukon was still in his second stage form, so the holy water burned him as bad as it did his brother. Instead of a large explosion like Hashirama's jutsu, the water just dissolved the man's body until there was nothing left except for some bones. And then the bones crumbled to dust and were blown in the wind. Best way to kill a pest, Tobirama panted, the pain in his back burning, make sure none of its body survives. He then fell to his knee and Hashirama ran to his side. He took out some soldier pills and a plasma pill. His brother took them and nodded a thanks to the man. The Hashirama used the time they had to heal the wound in his brother's back. He would then focus on his own. Round 3, Kidomaru vs Minato. Minato dodged to the side to avoid a spear of solidified webbing to the head. Kidomaru growled at the man. Each of his hands had a thing of solidified webbing in the form of clubs. The Spider-Man growled in anger as he missed again. Though he usually enjoyed messing with his enemies, this was getting very bothersome. He charged forward, swinging his each one in a crazy pattern. Though close combat wasn't normally his thing, he just wanted to kill this guy and move on with it, cause this was getting really annoyed. "Will you hold still so I can kill you?" Kidomaru yelled as he missed again. "Sorry," Minato said, "but I have this thing about being alive and having my head still on my shoulders. Call me old-fashioned." Kidomaru growled in annoyance again and jumped back. He was getting really tired of this, and decided to bring out something new. He cut his thumb and went through few hand signs. "Try this on for size, punk." Summoning jutsu. There was a huge plume of smoke, and when it cleared it showed a massive spider on a web that was roamed between two incredibly tall buildings that Minato never noticed before. Minato thought as he saw them, "Hey honey, how long have these buildings been here?" "For a while, dear," Kusina yelled back at him as she fought Teiwa. Minato didn't get to finish his conversation with his wife as a large sack appeared on the spider's abdomen. Then it broke in half and a whole lot of spiders fell from the webbing. Each one landing with surprising grace. Each one chattered a bit and then turned to look at Minato. The man could have sworn that he heard a few of them growl. "You want a piece of me, little buggies?" Minato asked as he took out two three-pronged kunai. "Come on then." The spiders apparently heard him as they all charged. Minato started swinging both of the kunai in his grip with surprising efficiency and brutality. Like the others, he hadn't been idle while he was in heaven. One by one the spiders fell. Unfortunately there seemed to be an army of them and he just couldn't take all of them down. As he noticed that they just wouldn't stop coming, he decided to pull one of his many tricks out of his sleeve. "Well," he said as he dropped into a stance with his legs spread evenly and crouched, "looks like I get to use this puppy a bit earlier than I expected." Minato focused intently. His chakras started to radiate and slowly a swirl of chakra formed at his feet. He growled a little as he felt the chakras start to swirl at the bottom of his feet. Kidomaru stopped to watch, all three of his eyes watching intently. The spiders around Minato stopped to watch as well. Though they may not have been the smartest of creatures, they had to admire such a show of skill. Time to solve this pest control problem. Minato yelled as the chakra at his feet began to swirl more violently. He threw back his head and yelled out, "Raisin Twister." As the echo of his shout echoed, the chakra at his feet shot up, forming a massive twister. The force of the twister sucked up all the spiders that were around him. Since the vortex was made of completely pure chakra, it burned them alive. If that wasn't enough, the twister hit the massive spider dead. In the center, the large butt screeched in pain. Its body was torn apart. Kidomaru formed some more spikes of webbing and slammed them into the roof he was currently standing on and held on for dear life. After a few seconds and a few pieces of debris later, the twister died down and Minato fell to one knee, panting hard. He didn't like doing that move since it took up a lot of energy to do so. He breathed hard for a few seconds. He reached into his pocket and pulled out some soldier pills. Kidomaru snapped out of his daze from the attack and came down swinging. Before he could make contact, however, Minato vanished in a sudden flash of yellow. Kidomaru yelled out in frustration as he just couldn't get that guy to stay still long enough to actually kill him. A few feet away, Minato took a few soldier pills to refuel himself a bit. Then he walked over to the edge of the building and looked down at the seething Kidomaru. "Hey bug boy!" Minato yelled. Kidomaru snarled and leapt up at the man. The bug man spat out some more webbing and formed a spear with a spiral edge. He jumped in, stabbing and swinging like crazy. "You know," Minato said, dodging, "I'm starting to wonder why Snake Boy picked you to be his bodyguard. I mean, you can't fight, you don't have any coordination. Long story short, you just plain suck. Shut up and die." Kidomaru yelled in complete and utter rage. On the next swing, Minato caught the spear and snapped it in half. Then he sent a strong punch to the spider guy's face. The bug man was sent flying back. He didn't get up right away and clutched his face in pain. Minato grinned as he went through hand signs and wings grew on his back. He finished his hand signs and yelled out his attack. Light style, burning sun. A huge ball of light formed in the blonde's hands and he shot forward a massive blast of energy. Kidomaru looked up as Minato shouted to see the massive energy ball heading for him. He flushed out some of his solidifying webbing to form a protective barrier around him. Unfortunately, the power from the light was too much. The webbing burned away and Kidomaru screamed in pain as the light destroyed every part of him. Minato fell to his knees, breathing hard. He took out another soldier pill and ate it. He then got up slowly and ran in the direction of his wife's fight. Round 4, Kushina vs Teiwaya. Teiwaya hid behind a building as Kushina had temporarily lost the sight of her opponent. Teiwaya played dirty and swung some dirt in Kushina's face to get away from her. Kushina was pretty frustrated that she had fallen for such a dirty trick. In her hiding spot, Teiwaya slowly peeled off the duct tape that was wrapped around her mouth. After a second she had it off and growled as she brought to her lips. At that moment Kushina sensed her. She ran toward the spot and Teiwaya started to play. The world around Kushina started to morph as everything melted away. The next thing she knew, she was wrapped up in ninja wire. "In your face, little girl," Teiwaya said as she walked up, "now it's payback time." Kushina grinned as she heard the voice and brought her heel up to nail Teiwaya in the chest. She was happy when she felt her foot actually hit something. She thought it was genjutsu, but she didn't really have a choice in where she should attack or not. After Teiwaya was knocked back, Kushina formed a ram seal and yelled, "Kai!" Everything turned back to normal and she glared angrily at the woman. "My turn to play tricks," Kushina said as she went through hand signs, lightning style, Electric surge. Electricity danced in between Kusuna's fingertips. She shoved her hands forward, sending a volt of lighting at the flute-using woman. Teiwei got up from the ground just in time to see the move heading at her. She jumped up and managed to dodge it. Unfortunately, she was wide open and Kusuna jumped up and nailed her in the face with a nasty right cross. Teiwei was sent flying and hit the opposite wall with a crack. Teiwei fell to the ground, but managed to catch herself. She groaned as she rose up. Kusuna looked down at her with a triumphantly at her. Had enough? Tiny Kusuna asked in a mocking tone. I'll show you who's tiny. You. Teiwei stopped and groaned, damn it, I can't even think of a good curse. Teiwei cut her hand and slammed it onto the ground, bring up a rather large cloud of smoke. When it cleared, it showed 3 large creatures. One carried a club, another had claws tied to its hands, and another didn't really have anything, but it looked strong. Let's see you fight this, you red-headed slut. Teiwei yelled as she started to play her flute. As she did, the 3 monsters charged. Kusuna brought out her golden swords and got ready. She charged and met up with the club monster first. The beast swung its weapon and nearly crushed the girl. Kusuna was faster though and jumped up as the beast had its weapon stuck in the ground. Kusuna came back down to earth and with incredible precision cut the club in half. She followed it up with a punch to the stomach, making the creature fall to its knees. The crab monster came at her next. Kusuna bobbed and weaved to avoid the large claws that were tied to the monster's hands. Kusuna ducked under one blow and ran forward. Once underneath the monster, she swung her swords in an X pattern, causing the arms to come off. The beast staggered back and Kusuna followed that up with a rather strong kick to its head, knocking it back. The last one came up swinging all of its fists in a frenzied manner. Kusuna jumped from side to side to avoid the massive fists. Then Teiwei started to play faster, making the monster move faster as well. Kusuna wasn't prepared for this and was knocked back into the wall by the creature's punch. The large monster now stood over the woman and raised both of its massive fists. The large thing then brought his fist down on the woman. Teiwei grinned to herself as she saw her enemy fall. The beast rose its large fist to reveal a crushed log. Teiwei stopped playing and panicked as she saw the woman was not there. Hey! A voice yelled. Teiwei looked to find the voice and found Kusuna going through hand signs. Kushian then called out, "Storm style, Dragon of the Storm." Lightning formed in Kusuna's hands. The blast of lighting shot out and went straight for the 2. Teiwei acted quick. Though her monsters were without their weapons, they were not without purpose. The 3 behemoths jumped at the way of the techniques. Their stitched mouths opened and go-like apparitions with multiple moths came out. The lightning stream formed a dragon in the time it took for this to happen. The apparitions opened their mouths as the dragon hit the 3 behemoths, and bit by bit the lightning that sucked in and absorbed. Ha! Teiwei yelled. It's over now. You'd think so, wouldn't you? Kusuna asked, looking at the 3 monsters with a smirk. At that moment the 3 monsters began to twitch and then... boom! The 3 exploded in a sudden burst of intense lightning. Kusuna jumped up to avoid the smoke cloud that would have hit her. Teiwei was too shocked to do anything. She then noticed Kusuna going through hand signs and wings coming out of her back. The musical illusionist gasped and would have run if a pair of arms hadn't suddenly wrapped around her and stopped her from running. "Where do you think you're going?" Minato asked. "The fun's just beginning." Kusuna finished her hand signs and called out, "Light storm style, holy storm." The lightning that appeared in Kusuna's hands turned gold and sent out a huge wave of gold lightning at Teiwei. Minato let go and Hira shined out of there right before it hit. Teiwei's eyes widened when she saw the move coming at her. She screamed in unbridled agony as the holy and electric energies ripped through her. Soon there was a loud explosion and all that was left was a very tiny pile of ashes. One less pain to deal with, Kushina sighed as she fell to her knee in exhaustion. Minato here shined over to his wife and gave her a soldier pill. She took it thankfully and kissed her husband. "Be lovey-dovey later you two," a familiar voice yelled. The two turned to see Naruto on top of a giant lion. "We got to save the old man," the boy yelled as he jumped off Mufasa as the Lion King vanished in a puff of smoke. The two nodded and ran for the final battleground. Hashirama and Tobirama joined them as they ran to the fight. Finally they arrived at the fight and the old wasn't faring very well. The was currently pushed back against the ground with Kizangi at his throat. "Time to die, old man," the snake Sunin said evilly. He rose the sword and was about to bring it down when Minato appeared in front of him with a raise-non in his hand. "I don't think so, you snake freak," Minato yelled as she slammed it into the snake Sunin's chest and sent him flying with a resounding crash as he hit the arena floor. It was strange that they had all managed to stay in the same general area while they were fighting. Minato helped the old man up. Orochimaru groaned as he rose up. He snarled angrily and pointed the Kizangi at his enemies. "I don't care if I have to fight my way through these fools," he declared, "I will kill you." "I don't think so." Naruto's voice rang out. Orochimaru spun around to see the boy with Angel's hand drawn and glowing. Naruto swung the sword and yelled, "Exorcism slash!" The holy blade cut through Orochimaru and he screamed in pain. As the sword excited, there was a black slime on the blade that was glowing purple. Naruto swung it off and it hit the ground a few feet away. Naruto set the sword on his shoulder and asked, "Are you okay?" Orochimaru groaned, "I'll be fine." Orochimaru groaned as he got up. He turned and looked at the others. To the others' complete shock, his eyes were green and purple marks on his face were gone. "Old man," Naruto said, "this is the real Orochimaru. The one that you knew before the whole missing in thing." "Is it possible?" Sarutobi said as he looked at the man. "It is," Orochimaru said, "my actions and my mind have not been my own for the past few years. All of them were of that thing Naruto took out of me." "What was it exactly?" Tobirama asked. The ground then began to shake and the roof cracked. Then out of the ground burst a large monster. It resembled a snake. It had black scales and large yellow eyes. The thing that set the things apart was a long trail of spikes going down its back. Another difference was the large amount of teeth in its mouth and a third eye on top of its head. "That," Naruto said as he got into combat stance. "You." The monster growled, "You will pay." Chapter 17, Invasion Part 3, Eye of the Basilisk. "What the hell is that?" Sarutobi yelled as he saw the black snake-like monster. "It's a basilisk," Naruto said, "it along with a few other demons escaped from the underworld a few years ago. All the others are dead. There is one other than this ugly freak." "Freak," the basilisk growled in anger, "you will pay for insulting me, you little piece of slime." The monstrous serpent shot its head out toward the blonde. Naruto jumped out of the way in time and brought Angel's hand down on the snake's scales. It tore through the demon's flesh, but it did little more than irritate the monster. "Gah!" the beast roared, "I've only fought you for a few seconds and I'm already sick of you, boy." The snake swung its tail and nailed Naruto in the chest, sending him flying into the side of a building. Minato jumped up and formed another Rasengan in his hand. He shoved it forward, making contact with the serpent's skull. The beast's head was sent back a little bit, but it recoiled and slammed its head into Minato, sending him flying only to be caught by a large hand of wood made by Hashirama. "More meddling humans," the Serpent King growled, No matter. You will all soon perish by my might. We got to kill this thing fast, Taburma said, appearing next to his brother. If we don't, he'll cause great damage to the village. We got to fight giants with giants, Naruto said, coming out of nowhere. They both looked at the crater in the building Naruto had made. He looked a little scuffed up and his trench coat was torn, but with it gone he could move more quickly now. What do you mean, Naruto? Kushina asked. Find Tsunade and Jiraiya, Naruto answered. Try and lure this oversized toy outside the village and get them to summon the bosses. Dad and Mom, and summon their bosses too. Nice plan, Sarutobi said. Can't wait to see how it plays out, said the serpents. I have got to start paying attention to my surroundings in these fights, Naruto murmured. The basilisk blasted a flood of acid and poison from its mouth. The group of cages and ninja jumped out of the way. Good thing too, because the building they were on was turned to a puddle of boiling slime. A bunch of Umbu appeared and went through hand signs, then they called out, fire style, burning ash pile. All the respective Umbu blew as from their mouths. The burning ash hit the basilisk, making it his in pain. If there was one thing this guy couldn't stand, it was fire. The Umbu then clicked their teeth, causing the ash to ignite, and then it all exploded. The serpent threw back its head and yelled out in pain. It turned its gaze to the Umbu. The thing then ducked its head. The third eye on its head flashed purple. The Umbu were then turned to statues of stone. The snake rose its tail and then brought it down on the statues, effectively ending the team's life. Hey Snakey, Naruto yelled up at the monster, you think you're all tough just because you got a big third eye? You're just a big pushover, you oversized legless iguana. What did you say? The serpent roared, sending its tail toward Naruto, who managed to dodge to the side. I'll eat you alive, you little brat. The beast roared in absolute rage. I don't see that happening, Naruto taunted. He then focused chakra into his legs and then made a break for it. The serpent growled in rage. Then it dove underground. The ground cracked as it followed closely behind Naruto. Mineta, Kushina, Sarutobi, Hashirama, Tobirama, and Orochimaru all following them. They were running through the village when Minato spotted Jiraiya and Tsunade. Hey, he yelled out, managing to be heard over the carnage, we need your help with something here. Come on. The two Sunin finished off the last of their opponents and ran off with them. The two then noticed Orochimaru was with them. Long story. Kushina said to them, explain later. The two just shrugged and followed them. Meanwhile, Naruto was having a little bit of a hard time keeping ahead of the basilisk. The snake was much faster while it was underground than it was on land. He had to avoid a few blasts of acid shot at him from underground, but after a few minutes of running he managed to get the basilisk to a secluded part of the forest that surrounded the village. Naruto noticed that the sound of rumbling wasn't following him anymore. He looked behind him and saw that the basilisk wasn't following him anymore. Since that was the case, he decided to stop running for a few seconds and take a breather. As soon as he stopped, the ground started shaking. The blonde gulped and leapt away as the ground gave way and the basilisk shot out of the ground. Naruto ran backwards a bit after that. The blonde then had to avoid the monster's jaws as they slammed into the ground next to him. Is that all you got, boy? The basilisk taunted. Naruto went through hand signs and yelled out, fire style, phoenix flower jutsu. The blonde then released barrage of fireballs at the large serpent. The monster screamed as the fireballs exploded on its scales. The monster growled. It fired another blast of acid that Naruto managed to avoid. However, some of the acid splashed up struck his arm. Naruto hissed in pain as the monster's acid burned his arm. He ripped off the bandages on his forearm that got burned and threw them to the ground. The blonde then reached for his arm and unsealed Shadow Claw. The blonde then formed a shadow clone, putting a bit more chakra into it, allowing it to be able to take more damage without being destroyed. The clone took Shadow Claw from the real Naruto. The two clones then charged at the basilisk. "I don't care how many of you there are." The basilisk roared, "I'll kill you all." The basilisk brought up its tail and brought it down, making the ground crack beneath the force of the blow. Naruto jumped from the cracks and climbed up the newly formed formations up to the snake's tail, where he made his way to its head. He drew back Angel's hand and yelled, striking heavens. The blonde brought down his sword that met the basilisk's scales. The snake hissed in pain as the holy metal struck his body, burning its tainted flesh. The other Naruto jumped up and swung Shadow Claw, yelling, screaming darkness. A large blast of black energy shot off the sword and blasted the monster's head. Said monster roared in pain as the black energy tore through his flesh. The snake let out a monstrous hiss. It then launched itself at the young blonde. Tobirama water style, hardened water drill. Kushina water style, water bullet. Tsunade earth style, world of graves. Jiraiya fire style, fireball jutsu. Orochimaru, fire style, phoenix flower jutsu. Minato, wind style, great tornado. Hashirama, wood style, wood spike. Sarutobi, fire style, fire blast jutsu. A drill of water, a water ball, a large piece of earth, a large fireball, a lot of smaller fireballs, a large blast of flame, a spike of wood, and an aimed twister struck the basilisk in the side. It roared in pain as its flesh was torn. The wounds, like the ones given to it before, started to heal. Where its body was burned and struck before, there were only large scars. Minato, Kushina, Tobirama, Hashirama, Jiraiya, Sarutobi, Orochimaru, and Tsunade all came on the scene. "How many of you little pests are going to come and fight?" the basilisk hissed in annoyance. "All right, you three," Naruto yelled from his spot, "let it rip." Jiraiya and Tsunade cut their thumbs and went through hand signs. Orochimaru cut his thumb and spread it on a tattoo on his arm. Then all three Sunin brought their hands up and called out, summoning jutsu. There were 3 huge plumes of smoke that surrounded the 3 Sunin. As the smoke cleared, it showed the 3 sages each on large animals. Jiraiya stood on top of a large toad. The toad was red and was currently smoking a pipe. It wore a blue robe and had a sword sheathed on its belt. "Hey there, Buntat," Jiraiya said, "ready to do some damage?" "Yeah," Buntat said, "but don't get in my way, Jiraiya. By the way, why are we fighting this thing and not him?" He was gesturing to Orochimaru. Said man was on top of a massive purple cobra that had black stripes on its back and green eyes. "As it turns out, he was possessed by this ugly cuss," Jiraiya said, pointing to the basilisk. "All right," the toad boss said, "no matter how much I don't like it, I'll fight with them." "Are you ready to fight?" Tsunade asked the giant white and blue slug that she stood on. "Yes, mistress," Katsuya the slug boss said. Orochimaru, Manda the snake boss growled out, "What do you think you're doing summoning me here, and what the hell is that doing here?" "He is our opponent," Orochimaru answered, "plus he possessed me for a great deal of time and I really want to get back at this overgrown grass snake, so would you mind?" "Not this time," Manda growled, "this guy tried to take the position of boss from me once and I plan on taking him down even if I have to drag him to hell myself." Naruto got up and placed his hands together. Chakra seal release ×3. There was a burst chakra. Everyone turned to see Naruto raging with chakra. The blonde bit his finger and ran the bloody appendage over the summoning tattoo on his arm. Summoning jutsu, wolf, lunar. In a huge plume of smoke the large silver-furred and golden-eyed wolf appeared and howled at the sky. "You guys ready?" Naruto asked the Sunin. "It's time to play. I don't care how many of you there are." The basilisk roared, "I will kill all of you." "Just try it," Bunta said as he drew his sword. "I always wanted a snakeskin wallet." Katsuya charged with surprising speed for a slug and yelled, "Acid slime." The monstrous serpent dodged to avoid being struck with the acidic liquid. He was then met by Bunta, who tried to stab his blade into the side of the monster's head. The snake dodged to the side. It was intercepted by Manda, who then sank his fangs into the basilisk's side. "Get off of me!" the basilisk yelled. Orochimaru took advantage of the basilisk being stuck. He ran up to the monster's head and then brought out the Kizangi into the snake's left eye. The snake reared back in pain. This was noticed by the others, who decided to take advantage of the moment. "Give me some oil, Bunta!" Jiraiya yelled. The toad's stomach expanded and then it fired a huge blast of black oil from its mouth. Jiraiya was going through hand signs and yelled, "Fire style, toad flame bombs." A huge blast of oil shot out of the toad's mouth, followed by a fireball from Jiraiya. The result was a jumbo-sized fire blast. There was silence after that. Everyone stood as they stared at the huge bonfire that had formed from the attack. "Is it dead?" Jiraiya asked out loud. The body in the flames then started to burn. At that moment Jiraiya realized something. It shed its skin. He yelled. The ground began to shake violently. All the summons jumped away at that time. Unfortunately for Katsuya, the basilisk burst from the ground and wrapped round a large slug. The slug queen groaned in pain as her body was squeezed by the massive serpent-like monster. As the pressure started to grow more intense, she burst. Not in a shower of blood and slime, but into a whole barrage of smaller slugs. Some of the slugs slithered away from the monster. Others, however, then grouped together on it and began to secrete slime. The result was the basilisk being stuck in place by the slime. "Take him while he's down!" Jiraiya yelled. With that shout everyone made a quick break for the large monster. Minato and Jiraiya both formed raisins and slammed them into the side of the snake's head. The head was broken out of the slime, allowing him to yell, "Damn you! You filthy hairless apes!" Kusina came up with her golden sword flashing. She drew them both back and yelled, "Heaven's cross!" Both golden blades were swung in an cross shape. A huge blast of gold energy was shot off the blades and exploded on contact with the side of the large serpent. "Our turn!" Naruto yelled, "Come on, Lunar! Lightning style, lightning blast!" "All right!" Lunar growled, "Wind style, howling twister!" Both, wind lightning style, howling storm. The twister and lightning bolts mixed together and lightning lined the spiraling winds. The electric twister nailed the large snake-like thing in the side. It screamed in pain as its back was torn. The snake snarled slightly as its back started to heal. Hashirama came up next, going through hand signs. Wood style, tree of cremation. A few large trees grew out of the ground and wrapped around the basilisk's body. The basilisk writhed in the wood, trying to break out of the wood. Hashirama then threw a few kunao at the trees. The serpent stopped its struggling when it felt something running down its scales. It looked down to see oil was running down its body. Its eyes widened as it noticed the kunao each had a paper bomb attached to it. Said bombs then went off and exploded. The basilisk screamed in agony as the flames ate away at its scales. Tobirama came up and reached behind his back, taking out a familiar object. It was a small black handle. Tobirama focused chakra into it and an blade made entirely out of electricity shot out of the top of the handle. The basilisk regenerated from the fire blast. It looked to see Tobirama coming at its side with the electric sword drawn. He also noticed Hiruzen was coming up with a large black staff. The two swung their weapons and made contact with the basilisk's head. Sarutobi's weapon only struck the monster, but Tobirama's tore through its flesh and sent a huge blast of electricity through the serpent's body. The basilisk fell to the ground. As the two landed, Sarutobi turned to Nidame and asked, "When did you get that back? It was stolen so long ago." "Long story short," the Nidame replied, "before me and Hashirama came we found the guy who stole it. He thought he was seeing us as ghosts and fainted on the spot. Hell, he even pissed and dropped a load in his pants at the same time." "Oh man, I would have loved to see that," Sarutobi said with an amused grin. "Would have loved to see what as the basilisk as it rose from the ground with the injuries to the side of its head healing. Oh, this guy saw our friends here and he..." Sarutobi then remembered who he was talking to. "Wait. You." The large monster lowered its head and its third eye flashed. The two jumped away as the purple eye shot a beam that struck a tree. The large wooden structure then turned to stone. "What was that?" Sarutobi asked as they avoided another blast from the eye. "That thing has the power to turn anything to stone with that eye," Tobirama explained. The basilisk stopped firing from its third eye and started firing blasts of acid and venom from its maw. The cages and ninja avoided the blasts of acid and poisons. Tsunda, Tobirama, and Hashirama all then unleashed storm punches to the ground, causing a mini earthquake. The quake caused the large serpent to fall into the chasm that was created. Then they heard something underground. Everyone looked over the edge and saw the basilisk started tunneling into the wall of the chasm. "Okay, this is getting annoying," Naruto growled. "How are we supposed to kill this ugly cuss?" "I don't know," Minato growled. "I haven't been this frustrated since I fought the Kuwabai." Naruto was thinking of something, then he got an idea. It was risky, but it was something that they had to do. Naruto then, using his hands, signed the plan to the rest of the group. Everyone looked at him like he was insane. After he made a few more signs, they smirked at the idea. The basilisk burst from the ground with a very angry scowl on its face. "If a snake can scowl, I mean. All right, you little pigs," it growled, "I'll tear you all apart, and, there's no one here." The monster looked around for a few seconds until it turned to see Manda rushing at him. The basilisk moved to the side and avoided the cobra's venomous fangs. The basilisk then had to avoid getting blasted with a shot of acidic slime from Katsuyu. The monster dodged to the side to avoid the acidic slime. At that moment his Gamabunta came and wrapped his tongue around its neck. Or at least he spot that can be considered its neck. "Let go of me, you overinflated frog!" The basilisk roared in indignation. "Hey ugly!" The basilisk turned its head to see Naruto with a ball of darkness in each hand. Dark style, seeing darkness. The blonde then threw each ball at the basilisk's eyes. The monster let out a cry of anger and rage as its sight was taken from it. "You hairless ape!" The creature yelled in anger, "I'll kill you! I'll kill you and swallow your soul!" The blonde remained silent and he jumped up in their air. He reached for his back for the Reaper kanji tattoo on his back. Once he reached for it, he added some chakra and took out a massive scythe. The scythe was purple. It had a long jagged blade and a human skull with long fangs instead of their regular incisors. Naruto focused chakra into the blade of the scythe. The blonde then jumped into the air above the basilisk. With its neck held and its eyes useless, it couldn't spit out acid or venom, nor could it use the third eye since it relied on the sight of the other two. Basically it's the scythe harvester from Darksiders. Naruto descended on the monster and yelled out, "Scream harvester! Demonic soul reaping! The blonde brought down his scythe hard and nailed the basilisk in its third eye. As Naruto fell, a light blue and transparent version of the basilisk fell with him. The blonde then hit the ground. Finally the basilisk's transparent double faded and seemed to be absorbed into the scythe. The blade then shined green and acid dripped from the blade. Naruto shifted his scythe and sat it on its shoulder. Very impressive, Orochimaru said. Thanks, Naruto said, now I suggest we head back to the village. You can, Orochimaru said, but I can't. Not after all I have done there. We'll find a way, Naruto said. Okay, Orochimaru said, but when this is over can you do me a favor? What? Minato asked, approaching the new Sunin. Can you protect me from Anko? Everyone burst out laughing from that. No, seriously. I've seen what happened to her do to me, Orochimaru deadpanned with a sweat drop. Oh make, how Tobirama got the Raijin back. Sometime during the wave mission a few miles from Tajuna's village, Aoi Rokushi slept in his tent. He had had a productive day. He had managed to scare off a few people and had managed to kill a few worthless idiots in some town, and he got some girls he could use for entertainment. Aoi, said a dark whispery voice. Aoi rose up from his sleep. He looked around and saw that no one else was in his tent. He was about to go back to sleep when he heard the noise again. The man rose up from his cot wearing only a pair of Care Bear underwear. He didn't worry about becoming a laughing stock due to this because he knew that this guy was going to be dead in a few seconds anyway. Come out, you coward, he said, picking up the Raijin and activating it. With this sword I am invincible. One problem with that theory, came the voice from behind him. He spun around and the light form the Raijin showed the face of Tobirama Senju. That's my sword, the man growled in anger. Aoi's eyes went wide in fear. There was a stain forming in his pants. Boo, was all Tobirama said. The missing nin felt something plop in the seat of his pants. He then let out a very girly whimper and then fainted. In the world of Isom. The author then ducked a kunai thrown by a female ninja in the room he was typing in. No offense to the ladies. The girl smiled and walked. Back in Naruto world. Aoi hit the ground and the smell of his defecation filled the tent. Tobirama picked up his sword and smirked as he walked out the door. The next day Aoi became known as the ninja who was in need of diapers. Chapter 17, Secrets and Mission Revealed. It had been a few days since the invasion. Everyone was managing fine since there weren't very many casualties. However, the area around the arena had been decimated by the basilisk and was still under construction. News of the cages being alive flooded the village. They were practically assaulted by questions from just about every ninja asking how they were alive. The continuous answer was that it was something that they wouldn't be able to do. Orochimaru had decided that he wouldn't stay in the village. He knew that after what he did he would be hated by most of the populace. That, and he really didn't want to wind up getting torn limb from limb by Anko. Before he left though, he left instructions for the curse mark so Anko could have hers removed. Meanwhile Umbu were looking all over the village for Kabuto. It was found out that he was working for Orochimaru while he was still possessed by the basilisk. The medic nin was currently in hiding. It's unknown where he is now. After the basilisk's death the sound forces surrendered. They were captured and dragged to a maximum security prison to await execution. What did you expect to happen to captured ninja nut jobs? What did you think they were going to do? Bake them a pie? The remains of the sound four were promptly cleaned up and thrown away. At the moment Naruto was in the council chambers. The council had called a meeting to discuss a few things. There were two new faces there. Mocha and Shiki. The two replaced Homura and Koharu as the advisors on the council since they were more level-headed, and the fact that Homura and Koharu retired after the invasion. They just thought the job was too stressful. Ibiki and the head of Umbu were there too since they had a feeling they would be needed at some point. "So what is this about?" Naruto asked. "We called this meeting," Sarutobi said, "to discuss plans for the future. We don't know what else will happen." "Well," Isom said, "what I want to know is what the heck was with that overgrown legless lizard doing in Orochimaru? My guess is that the basilisk possessed Orochimaru when he started those experiments," Naruto said. "Despite being powerful, demons can still die. My guess he wanted to find a way to find the keys to immortality. He used Orochimaru as a vessel so he wouldn't draw the attention of angels or reapers, both of which are easily able to kill demons." "That would explain a bit," Hayashi said, "but where is Orochimaru?" "He out of the village," Jiraiya said. "He feel like he doesn't deserve to be in this village after the atrocities he performed here." "Well, that, and he didn't want to be ripped apart by Anko. He knew how pissed she was at him for doing what he did to her. He'll still aid the village when he has to though." "Well, at least all the Sunin are back on our side," Inoichi said, a little relieved that no one had to worry about giant snakes tearing people apart anymore. "I want to question something," Mocha said. "I had that Naruto used two incredible weapons at his disposal. I would like to see them." Naruto unsealed Shadow Claw and Harvester. "Okay," Dan Higurashi groaned, "this is getting weird. How on earth did you get weapons like these? They don't even look like ones that a normal person would have." "That's because they aren't," said Tobirama as his brother, Minato, and Kushina all entered the chambers. "What do you mean?" Some asked, "and how in the hell are you four alive?" "Well," Hashirama said, "after we died we went to heaven and became archangels. There we trained in celestial or light jutsu. When we came to get Naruto we took him there so he could train." "Wait," Chaozu said, "you mean those angels from all those years ago? That was you, all of you?" "Yes," Hashirama said, "personally I feel bad that the village has fallen so far. To be ruled by hate and to unleash it all on a child. It makes no sense to me." The civilian council flinched at the words. Only recently had they begun to think about what happened. They also started to see Naruto as a hero for bringing back all the Sunin and for defeating the basilisk. "So Kami let you come back because you deserved to come back," Isom said. "That makes a lot of sense when you think about it." "Yes," Minato said, "he also got some help from Yami and that Shinigami." "Whoa," Shikaku said, "that would explain why he got those powers shown from all missions he's been on plus the ones shown in the recent invasion." It was also noted that he made use of the Kyuubi's chakra, Shibuya stated. "Is there anything you can tell us about that?" "A lot of you are going to want to sit down for this," Naruto said. "First of all, the Kyuubi is no longer contained in me." Silence. "What?" everyone yelled. "Let me start from the beginning," Naruto explained. "First of all, the seal made to trap the Kyuubi had a secondary purpose. It was made to slowly drain away the Kyuubi's chakra until it was to vanish from existence. While I was in heaven training, the holy chakra of the place sped up the process, and now the Kyuubi's chakra is mine and the fox is gone." The civilian council smiled as they heard that they didn't have to worry about the fox anymore. At the same time they were also reminded of what they did to the boy, and guilt stung their hearts like a swarm of wasps. "I take it you have full control over the beast's chakra, right?" Sarutobi asked. "No," Naruto said, shocking everyone. "The energies in heaven sped up the process so my body couldn't fully adapt to it. With the chakra of the beast my coils expanded greatly at such a rate I had to seal off my power, one seal for each tail." If I use too much of the demon's chakra for too long I could very well end up destroying myself. Oh man, Inoichi thought. Like they say, Naruto said, great power usually comes with a sacrifice. Now that that is done and out of the way, Sarutobi said, how are we going to deal with Danzo? He still has his root umbu about. From what Sasuke Uchiha told me, he came to find his girlfriend being kidnapped by one of them. Actually I don't think we have to worry about that, Naruto said, gaining looks from everyone in the room. What do you mean, Naruto-san? asked the boy. You'll figure it out in a few minutes, the blonde said, looking at a watch he had on his wrist. Meanwhile, Danzo-sama, said Urut-umbu as he approached his master, there was a package left for you at the door, sir. A package? The mummified man asked with a raised eyebrow. The umbu placed the package on the desk of the one-eyed leader. The man took out a kunao and as carefully as possible cut the tape that was holding the top of the box shut. When he opened it, he took out a bizarre-looking box. It was basically a small black box with strange gold markings on it. Though it was a box, it seemed to unnerve people. With it came a note that said, if you want real power, all you have to do is open this box. Danzo smirked under his bandages and started to work on the puzzle box. Back in the council chambers, Naruto had stopped smirking at his watch. Huh? Naruto said, the package must have been held back in delivery. Package? Sarutobi asked the boy with a curious look. Well, Naruto said, the package contains something that was going to get rid of Danzo, but from the sound of things either the package was late in delivery or he figured out what it was and stopped it somehow. Troublesome, Shikaku said, you can't really trust the post office anymore, can you? Apparently not, Hashirama said, next time you should just send something by a carrier pigeon or a ninja dog. I'm with you on that one, Inoichi said. A few seconds after that there was a humongous tremor and the entire room shook. A few people jumped underneath their desks so that they could avoid being crushed by falling debris, and because it was pretty much common knowledge. What the hell was that? Isom asked as she got up from under her desk with her partner Kuromaru. That, Naruto stated with a small smile, was the package I told you all about. A few seconds earlier, Danzo had been working on the puzzle non-stop for the past few minutes. After some tinkering he finally got it done. The puzzle box seemed to move of its own accord, then seemed to turn around and the images became all jumbled up and weird looking. After a few more seconds of the box doing this, the top part of it seemed to open up. As soon as the box was open, chains shot out and dug themselves into Danzo's head. The mummified man screamed as the spikes of metal dug into his skull. The root umbu present heard their master's screams and tried to save him, but skeletal hands came up from the ground and dragged them down. The chains in Danzo's head tried to pull him down into the box. He tried to fight them, but their grip was too strong. Plus whatever was on the other side of those chains was pretty damn strong itself. After a few more seconds of struggling, Danzo was eventually ripped from his seat and into the box. As he was, a dark chuckle came from it. The box then shone bright red before there was a burst of crimson energy that took the entire base and the box itself somewhere else. The result around them was a massive tremor that shook the ground. And that brings us up to now. Back in the council chambers. You gave him the box, didn't you? Minato asked, staring at his son. Yes, as a matter of fact I did, the blonde said with a satisfied smirk. How did you manage to get Pinhead to go along with it? Kushina asked. I threatened to make some very compromising pictures public, Naruto said, making the three thought-dead Kage's jaws drop as well as his mother's. You actually blackmailed Pinhead? Tobirama asked, and I, though Minato was insane. I agree with you on that, brother, Hashirama said, shaking his head. Who's Pinhead? Ibiki asked. While I was training, Naruto explained, I went to the underworld with Yami. I ran into Pinhead, who's in charge of torture and punishment for those who are evil. Unfortunately, he lost himself in his work and broke away, torturing both evil and innocent souls. Yami sealed him away in a puzzle box. If you and your allies find that box, then you get sucked into his plane, and believe me, that is nowhere you want to be. That man can come up with tortures that would make you want to run home crying for you mommy and wear an adult diaper for the rest of your life, provided you survive that long. The way Naruto worded it made everyone pale. Even Ibiki looked a little freaked out by the fact that someone could torture someone like that. I have something else I want to ask, the head of Umbu stated. You seem to know how to fight that demon very well. To be honest, I'm surprised. It's like you've fought demons before. That's because we have, Minato said. As angels we fought rouge demons that escaped from the underworld. Demons are usually peaceful creatures, despite what people think, and only attack humans when they're provoked. Some demons, Hashirama continued, are truly malevolent. They enjoy causing death and destruction. Plus they get a kick out of the misery and the torture of those creatures that they deem beneath them. Believe us, it isn't pretty. Sometime while Sarutobi was still a jonin and had yet to be made Hokage, Kushina said, a few rouge demons escaped. One of which was the basilisk. What were the other ones? Shibuya asked. First is some big guy that called himself Godzilla, Minato said, listing his fingers. Second was some 8-headed hydra thing. Third was a sharktopus. A what? Opus? Sarutobi asked, clearly confused at the term. Sharktopus, Minato said, a cross between a shark and an octopus. Don't worry, the idea really freaked us out too. Definitely, Tobirama said with a slight shiver. Now, other than the cage's discomfort with the aquatic hybrid, Naruto said, there was also a beast we dubbed the Dino Shark, Super Gator, and Dino Croc. We managed to get all of them over the years since they were pretty weak. The last two, however, were the real powerhouses behind the their escape. One of these was the basilisk, right? Shivi asked with a raised eyebrow behind his sunglasses. Correct, Naruto said. The last one is, actually, a real mystery to us. What do you mean? Hayashi asked the boy. Well, Naruto said, rubbing his chin in thought, this last guy has been caught in the bowels of the underworld for quite some time. They used to say that, before he was beaten, he was almost as powerful as Yami. His name was Samael. What happened? Some asked, interested in this. Well, Tobirama said, interjecting, let's start at the beginning. Heaven and hell once fought a long war for the earth. Drawn to the conflict was an entity called the Charred Council. It believed that a great power left unchecked would disrupt the balance in the world. Soon both kingdoms came to honor the council's laws because none of them were able to withstand the justice of the council's enforcers. The four horsemen, Hashirama said, fury, death, strife, and war. Tobirama continued, when the kingdom of man came, a pact was formed. When the third kingdom became strong enough, the end war would begin. In response, 7 seals were made to keep the balance. Unfortunately, an angel named Abaddon sought to break the treaty and kill the leader of hell. He only succeeded in angering the council. All but one of the seals were broken. War was sent to the earth and blamed for the early apocalypse. For punishment, he was to find all responsible and slaughter them. He did. During this time, Minato said, he met Samael. In order for Samael to help him, he had to gain the hearts of 4 monsters called the Chosen. War hunted them all down and tore the hearts from their bodies. After Samael's power was restored, War went on to kill the last of his enemies. He found Abaddon and then tore the now fallen angel's wings from his back. In the process the seventh seal was broken and War's allies joined him. A great deal of time later, Naruto said, Samael resurfaced and tried to destroy what was left of the world. He managed to destroy the Charred Council before the horsemen could get to him. The horsemen fought him valiantly, but they couldn't defeat him. They managed to seal away his power and banish him to the underworld where he was under lock and key. After that the world was reformed. Our world was formed. Everyone was shocked, terrified, and fascinated by the story. How the world ended and how it started was in all honesty pretty unnerving. So how did Samael escape? Hayashi asked. Unknown, Naruto said, we suspect that he was able to trick some demon with the promise of honor and power. I have one thing that concerns me, a civilian asked, why has Sasuke Uchiha's Sharingan changed? Also how did he get wings? I used dark chakra when I enhanced his eyes, Naruto explained, I guess I used enough for him to gain contract with the Ravens. So, a councilman said, the Uchiha clan is now incredibly powerful. Yes, Naruto said, but he has to learn to control his new powers or they could destroy him like mine could. Well, Sarutobi said, any other matters? We still have the Akatsuki, Minato said, even though they can't capture all the Biju now they still are an issue just because they are made up of a bunch of S-rank missing nin. We can deal with them when the time comes, Jiraiya said, they still haven't mobilized, so until they start we can't do anything since I have no idea where they're hiding at the time. Any other matters? Sarutobi asked, meeting adjourned. Naruto, Kushina, and the cages gladly left the room. In all honesty none of them really liked the whole meeting thing. To them it seemed like a bit of a waste of time. I'm going to see Ino, Naruto said, I'll see you guys at home. Okay, Minato said, see you later. Naruto then set out for his girlfriend's house. When he arrived he noticed that there was a different chakra signature in the building different from that of the Yamanaka family. Naruto barged in and noticed that the place had been pretty much ransacked with furniture turned over. He found Mr. and Mrs. Yamanaka on the ground. He checked their pulses to make sure they were alive. Luckily they were. Apparently someone had drugged them. Naruto then sensed a few spikes in chakra coming from the back part of the family compound. Naruto charged through the house until he found himself a sight that made his blood run cold. Ino was currently being held with a kunai at her neck by Kabuto. Well well, Kabuto said with a sly grin, glad to see you finally made it. What are doing here? Naruto growled angry at the silver-haired boy. Simple, Kabuto said, I'm avenging my master. Dude, Naruto said, get with the times. Orochimaru was being controlled by the basilisk. He was never really your master. I know that, Kabuto growled out, I mean the monster you killed. I served what possessed that weak man. I served him, not Orochimaru. You stole my master from me. So now, I'll take away your pretty little girlfriend. Kabuto brought up the kunai in his grip and then brought it down, piercing Ino's chest. Naruto froze as that happened. Kabuto savored the look of horror on the blonde's face. That look became relieved when Ino burst into smoke, revealing it had been a shadow clone. What? Kabuto asked, clearly shocked. When did she make a clone? Hey, Four Eyes! A female voice shouted. Kabuto spun around just in time to take a stick to the face. Kabuto was sent flying into a wall. The spectacled boy rose up and saw Ino holding a pair of tonfa that had small curved blades at the end. Stay out of this, Naruto, Ino said as she glared at the boy in front of her. I want some payback on this little punk. Kick his skull off, honey, Naruto said with a smirk. Lucky shot, Kabuto said as he rose up from the ground, you won't be getting that again. Oh yeah, Ino asked before she blurred and appeared in front of Kabuto, shocking the boy. Let's test that theory. The platinum blonde then unleashed a strong kick that knocked the silver-haired ninja through the wall. You convinced Tsuan to train you in her super strength, didn't you? Naruto asked as he surveyed the fight. Yep, Ino said, smiling. I even convinced your mom to give me these tonfa. You little whore. Kabuto yelled as he rose from the hole in the wall. His hands ignited with green chakra and he charged at the Yamanaka heiress. He swung both hand, calling out, "Chakra scalpels." Ino dodged to the right then the left to avoid the strikes, then she jumped forward and caught both chakra scalpels with her tonfa. The two then stood at a standoff. Both sides not giving an inch. Ino smirked, then using the strength that she earned from her training with Tsunade launched Kabuto backwards, forming another hole in the wall. My parents are going to kill me when they wake up, Ino said to herself. Kabuto growled again as he rose up. He glared with white-hot fire in his eyes as he raged at the platinum blonde who was supposed to be a weak fangirl. He charged blindly, not sensing the chakra Ino was focusing into her leg. As Kabuto got close, Ino's leg shot up and bam! Crack! Thump! Ino's chakra-infused kick came up and nailed Kabuto right where the sun doesn't shine. Naruto winced at the sight of that. Even Inoichi, who was still drugged at the time, winced in his sleep as the sound of Kabuto's balls being destroyed echoed through the house. Kabuto in the meantime had a look of absolute agony on his face. He still had that look as he fell down on the ground clutching his now broken pelvis. Wow, Naruto said, I didn't think you would be that mad at him for holding you hostage. That wasn't for holding me hostage, Ino said, getting a look from Naruto. That was because he groped me when he was waiting for you to show up. That, and I think he said something about making me his toy when this whole thing was over. Okay, Naruto said, if he had any balls left, I'd slice them off and feed them to him. Yeah, Ino said. At that moment a bunch of Umbu appeared in the room. We got word of a disturbance and, the Umbu started, but stopped when he noticed the prone form of Kabuto on the ground. He said, never mind. The Umbu then picked up the body and shoes hind away. It was later revealed that Kabuto had died since the strike had damaged everything from his pelvis going up through body. Even if he had survived, he pretty much had a sex change operation. Meanwhile, in some dark and dreary place, screams of pain and howls of agony echoed through the air as multiple men were tortured. Screams of horror could be heard as people face their worst fears. You could hear the sound of tearing flesh and blades slicing through the air. In one chamber Danzo sat over a pit of spikes. His body was bloody as barbed wire was wrapped around his wrists and legs. The Sharingan eyes in his arm and his eye socket had been ripped out and now sat in jars on a shelf a few feet away from his position. In addition, there were multiple small pins stuck all over his body. His slightest movements were painful. Please, Danzo begged, this pain is too much. Pain, a voice in the dark asked. Danzo rose his head to see a figure walking towards him. In the light he saw the figure, and immediately wished he didn't. It was a tall figure with black leather clothing. From his suit hung multiple straps that had on hooks, knives and multiple other sharp objects. The dark kept Danzo from seeing the figure completely. How dare you use that word? Pinhead snarled. Pain has a face. Allow me to show it to you. The man came closer, showing Danzo his face. Danzo's remaining eye widened in terror. The man's head was bleached white, on top of that his eyes were black and his head was completely covered in pins. Sir, the man said, I am Pain. Danzo's tortured screams echoed throughout the chambers.